pretty darn good reason if we're going to fire up an episode to start an episode, and this is an even better reason. Wow, this is great. We have our first major diplomatic event of this campaign. I'm not talking about war. I'm talking about an alliance warfare. We have called the Aserai, to declare war against the Western Empire. Now, Caladog and the Aserai. So, we're allied with the Aserai, and evidently, Caladog sent a message, and I think you have to send a heap of money to the other kingdom and say, we want help in this war. So, let's start an episode right here. This is interesting. We're at war with the Valandians and now the Western Empire, and we have an ally. So this is going to get really tasty really quick. Welcome back again, friends, to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to all things Bannerlord related. I'm speaking so fast you probably can't understand me. We've got some caffeine in our system now, and we are going to continue our Battanian campaign, exploring version 1.3, and we've had our first major change from vanilla Bannerlord. This is the new alliance system. Our Battanian forces here are allied with the Aserai, now against the Western Empire. Very cool. I understand only the basic concepts a little bit from some tutorial videos I've seen out there. Again, Mr. Chicken Bannerlord is a great guy to see if you want to learn if you want to learn details about some of the changes. We're going to cover them here as well. But one of the things I know is that alliances last for a year, and you can actually call on your allied partner to go to war with you. And that is what has happened here. So the Aserai are our friends. And boy, are these enemies in trouble, right? Because the Aserai and the Battanians, most of the fellas on the channel know, are my favorite two kingdoms when it comes to troops. I think they have the best troop lines, the best ranged troops. And of course, we talk about all the time, ranged troops are ultra powerful in Bannerlord. So let's make our way south, right? Let's get some action here. I better say, too, of course, we continued to reform our army here at the end of the previous recording. I'm trying to remember. Let's see. We got captured. I don't think I showed you much of the rebuilding process. So we have rebuilt our army. It's still fairly low level. But Battania also is the fastest leveling of all the different kingdoms here. And look at that shit. The Battanians have called on the Aserai to war against the Western Empire. Now, the question is, will the Western Empire ally themselves with the Valandians? That's the kind of thing you really want to see, or at least I want to see. I don't know what you want to see. Maybe you want to see naked women in the game. I want to see real-time tactics, real-time strategic things like you would see in the actual medieval age, right? If you got declared war on and then someone said, we're declaring war on you also because we're allied with them, you would start to look for allies. So we'll see if the AI gets developed in that manner or not. We're talking real politics, right? In Bismarck. And of course, all the scheming they did in the medieval era. Now you can see our army here. It's pretty raggedy, but that doesn't matter, right? We're going to be able just to power level on these weak-ass Western forces. I'm looking down and we're almost broke. Fortunately, our enemies are coming to get killed, right? So the Western Empire, all of a sudden, we declared war on the Western Empire. And you see, Unquid has declared war on the Western Empire. So as soon as we called for war, our ally, I think, is required to declare war on the Western Empire. It's basically, it's an alliance pact. The same thing that happened in World War I, where there was a single shooting, and the next thing you know, the entire fucking continent was shooting each other, and tens of millions of people died, all because of one prince got shot in his car. The Bannerlord system now has this basically trigger to start war. Now that's a good village to fight. I've got two different forces here, and of course we don't want to get captured right away. I want to use these forces strategically. Hopefully we can fight these armies one at a time, and it looks like we're going to be able to, right? This dipshit's coming right for us. He thinks he can win. Let's lure him back to this village here where it'll be a complete slaughter.
Since you're not...
Some kind of English accent. He says a bunch of dribble we don't care about. Come get some. Ceratus. And this guy can power level our army. You can see he's slightly favored in this battle, but that just doesn't, doesn't mean a thing. We have Battanian units. We have tactics, and Archon Ceratus here is about to become completely filled with projectiles. All right, so this is another thing I'm noticing. You can fight next to a village, and you don't actually appear in the village. I don't actually like this change. I wish I was in the village right now, although tactically this is, a plentiful good landscape to immolate our foe. I think we'll try to rush up to that top ridge and form a kill box. Now let's reunite ourselves with our units here. This is our first major battle since we rebuilt, and we've got a lot of guys that are naked. We're so fledgling army here that we have dudes that can't afford clothes. That's okay. They still got javelins on their backs. We've still got bows and arrows. We're going to be able to win this battle. We will continue to try to show tactics with this campaign. It's part of my nature, right? I do tactics when I buy a sandwich at Subway. I'm in there thinking if I can flank that hot chick, you know, that's in line. I'm figuring out if I can do a kill box on the crowds, and I go at different times and stuff like that. It's part of who we are here on Tactical Enlightenment. We're going to do tactics, and hopefully this stuff rubs off, right? You come to our channel, you watch a dozen episodes. I'll be shocked if you're not doing better at Bannerlord a week later. We get testimonials like that all the time. That said, don't forget to leave them, right? You guys can really help out the channel growth and help enlighten the entire Bannerlord community to tactics by sharing this, right? By showing it in your own videos, right? If you've got a small YouTube channel, I don't mind at all if you copy our tactics here and show them. I'd appreciate credit, right? If you're stealing them directly, so to speak. But if you're taking these tactics that we use on the channel and either benefiting your own game or you have a YouTube channel, keep spreading it, right? Because this is, to me, the core of Bannerlord. This is what makes Bannerlord so enjoyable. The combat is great, but tactics are dynamic, and you can do all kinds of diabolical things to your enemy. And I mention this all the time. The main advantage is your brain. You will feel great if you perform tactics in Bannerlord and win. If you just F1, F3, it's just mindless entertainment, right? This is going to make you feel like a superstar. You will literally be a happier person if you do tactics in Bannerlord. There you go, I said it. I should start charging people for therapy or something like that. Get rid of your antidepressant, do some tactics, and you will be happy. All right, so we're going to start to flank this group as they come up. They're coming uphill, so they're moving slowly. That means we're going to be able to dump tons of javelins and arrows into them before they get to us, right? Our cavalry here is in a shield wall, throwing javelins downhill. Over here we have two archer divisions, a skirmisher division, and a weaker infantry division. We're going to pull the enemy towards the center. Now, even if they attack this skirmisher division to the flank here, we'll simply pull it back like we are in a square. These units will defend more vigorously in a square. Once they're safe, we'll break them and then have them open fire. And what we're doing, of course, is concentrating fire, and we're getting flanking fire. The enemy's in a real bad pinch here. Line that 6th division over there and tell those guys to shoot. And start backing these archers up over this ridge. And what this does is it nullifies the enemy archers. They can't shoot. They can't see shit. They're down there, down on the hill, trying to march up it, watching their infantry being slaughtered. Now, I got an infantry division tangled up a little bit here. I must have mixed my commands. That's okay, right? The beautiful thing about tactics is unless it's an incredibly difficult battle, you can make mistakes and still recover. Now, see, they're just charging right into the center here. Every guy's getting hit with javelins. We can now have those guys bore in on the enemy's right flank. Continue to kite with our archers, right? These low-level archers are going to upgrade in this battle, but not if they die, right? You got to keep your units alive. Let's get this 6th behind the enemy, and the enemy's in a kill box. Just like that subway line, we have navigated it. The archers are down there wondering, what are we doing? I can't see anything. What's happening with the infantry? Well, they're all going to be dead by the time you guys get up here. In fact, those archers will probably rout. That happens a lot. This is their dipshit lord. He got smoked. And the enemy just insta-died here. I used to play a game called Dark Age of Camelot like 25 years ago, and we would make a gank group with 7 or 8 of us working in coordination, and that's what would happen to even large groups of people. We had 8 and they'd have 20. They would all insta-die in 2 minutes because of coordination and tactics like this, right? The sword is not, or the pen is not mightier than the sword, but the brain is, right? You guys can definitely overcome a lot in Bannerlord with tactics, and that was a pretty clear example. This pompous guy thought he could just take us prisoner. Let's execute him. Now, of course, we're going to play this campaign intelligently, not just tactics. We are going to do campaign strategy. We are going to develop companions, but I can't promise you guys a very long campaign here. I'm going to blaze through 10, 12, 15 episodes, something like that. I'm not going to spend 50 hours or 100 hours. They're not going to be a complex storyline like the Epic Valandian campaign. Of course, that campaign is still going. People who are watching this or seeing this pop up in their feed who are wondering what happened to the Baron, what happened to that amazing Epic Valandian campaign. We'll be very humble here. Our amazing Epic Valandian campaign. I think is going to be amazing. I don't think there's a storyline like it out there on YouTube. I'm a story writer. I really indulge the storyline and make it complex with cutscenes and all kinds of stuff like that. And we're going to continue to roll along with that epic landing campaign. I promise you guys a gnarly campaign, and it's gotten to the most gnarly stage. Now, this is nice, but it also brings up a point I want to mention. I already noticed it, and I've heard this on Reddit, and I've heard this elsewhere. The loot has been nerfed. Earlier in Bannerlord, you know, and we're talking 1.2 and before, at this mercenary stage, you would be ungodly rich. In fact, we're doing a simultaneous Disaster of War series where the guy's going to just become filthy rich. Look at this bad AI here. He just turns away from the safety of the castle and suicides. It's not good, right? We need AI improvements. Tailworlds, I'm going to whisper into the mic. Tailworlds, keep working on the AI. Because if this is AI, we'll call this artificial imbecility. This guy could have ran to the castle. Instead, he ran to a river like he was, you know, his horses were thirsty, pinned himself against the river, and we ran him down like a dog. Anyways, to finish that point, we're doing this Disaster of War series, and in 3 or 4 episodes, I'm still uploading it. We went from 0 gold, basically, to 2.5 million gold. Less than 1 year game time. The guy just got filthy rich from battles. It's for sure less with version 1.3. And I think, like a lot of players, maybe at least some players, I wish there was a little bit less attention given to new features like stealth and, you know, events and things like that that really do enhance the world, and more focus given to AI, right? If we could have, and it doesn't need to be a brutally hard game, just make various levels of difficulty, but the hardest level of difficulty in Bannerlord should be brutal. It should be like facing a really strong human opponent where they're doing diabolical shit. Hopefully they can eventually develop the AI to that point. I mean, even the RBM mod, a lot of people feel is superior to the Bannerlord AI, and that is unpaid modders. I think mostly unpaid modders developing tactics that are more dynamic. So hopefully Tailworlds marries, you know, a hot AI chick, and they go to work making some incredible tactics for us, because the graphics are there, the storyline is there, the intensity of the battle is there. There's so many things that Tailworlds has nailed. 10 out of 10, right? Just nailed the landing after a quadruple flip. It's unfortunate that the AI is still very much middle school level, right? This guy here, he rolled up for no reason. He looks right at me and gets shot in the face. You would just like to see a little bit more intelligent AI here. Now, I took a javelin in the hand, it looks like. I'm going to wave this javelin in the air every command the rest of the battle, but it's not going to matter. Again, this army ran from us, so we're going to be able to embarrass this army. But it would be really nice to see rays are coming through the trees. It's sunset. The sky is always dynamic, and I've mentioned that before. It's actually, if it's possible, it's too beautiful. It's so much beauty. It's like it's going to become slightly repetitive. I assure you, if you had nothing but sex with beautiful women your whole life, that would become boring. I know that seems crazy, but that is the human brain. You're better off, you know, having a little bit of variety, including some of the negatives, right? It's just like if you eat an amazing pizza every day, guess what? Eventually pizza is fucking irritating. All right, we're going to get drilled. We're going to get drilled in the chest. That's what we're going to do. Well, we want the high ground, and we want this right flank here, our right flank, for 2 reasons. First, we want to flank on their center division there. It's mostly infantry, kind of in a spread formation. So we're going to push their cavalry off of this cliff. You do that by simply bringing up cavalry with archers and skirmishers at the same time. Avoid the javelins here. Knock the guy off his horse, and now we have this high ground. We're positioned now like Napoleon, right? That's how humble we are in the challenge. We're positioning just like Napoleon at the Battle of Austerlitz. We have now seized the plants and heights, and now we're going to start moving up archers and skirmishers. And the enemy is mostly infantry, right? So those guys, their infantrymen, would be better off using their shields here to dig their fucking grave. They have no chance to win, especially because ranged units are so deadly in Bannerlord. We're starting to develop a wildling division. Battanian wildling is the most versatile, deadly infantry in the game. I stand by that quote, and I think you know, with version 1.3, the early returns are that they're going to be even more deadly, because it does seem like they have increased the accuracy of ranged units, especially archers, on moving targets. But I think in my experiences so far, also skirmishers. So you have these deadly units, they just get more powerful, and perhaps it's starting to get quite unbalanced between the ranged units and the non-ranged units. Now, this Western Empire force can't reach anybody. We've been talking about it. They're surrounded, and they actually start to form something that looks like something out of a Netflix show, a BBC show, a Nature Channel show, where they look like they're fish being attacked by a more intelligent organism, a dolphin, a pack of dolphins or something like that, and they form a fish ball. It's a really beautiful looking natural sequence. They start to form this 3D globe. Sort of this cylindrical globe in the middle of the battlefield, because they can't get to anybody. They're being completely shot to pieces. The death spam is entirely green, and the enemy melts, right? Just like the anchovies, they're all stunned. This guy is just standing here, like he looks like he's forlorn, doesn't have any idea what to do, and there isn't anything for them to do except die. Some people, well, they got one kill here. They got him an Avalon up here wailing away. So that's that. And of course, we're going to repeat this. I may not show every single one of these, but I do like continuing to illustrate the kill box, because it's probably the most devastating tactic in the game. If you're facing 70-80% infantry and you have archers, you should almost always win. Now, this keeps happening too, right? They keep on giving us good troops. In fact, oh, you boys done fucked up now. These Imperials had crossbow. And this campaign just ended. In fact, I'm going to stop recording in 30 seconds, because they just gave the most powerful kingdom, from a troop perspective, the Battanians, one of the most powerful units in the game, crossbow. We are now going to start forming a doom stack. And of course, I'm kidding about the campaign ending. I'm exaggerating. That our army is going to become obscenely powerful with fiend champs, wildlings, and Imperial Sergeant crossbow. Mix in a handful of just tough infantry to form a square, and we are going to start obliterating targets in this campaign. I think this is the strongest mix of characters, of units in the game, and I think I'll continue to spread that message here in this campaign. I guess 80% of the army could be skirmishers, fiend champs, and Sergeant crossbow slash sharpshooters, and you will demolish everything, especially with tactics. I mean, almost if you use tactics, right? I'll say that. If you F1, F3, of course, you're probably better off with cons guards and stuff like that. We're going to be able to obtain some amazing victories, and frankly, it's the best all-around army in all situations, and that is because we already know archers dominate in castle siege defense. You must have archers to win. They dominate in hilly or marshy terrain where the enemy is slowed down. They dominate in the forest. And if you use them right, they dominate in the open field. So the question really becomes, what's the purpose of cavalry? Well, I guess it's like that guy that's in every LeBron James poster where he's getting dunked on. Their purpose is to be mangled by the other troops, I suppose. We're going to head south. We've already done a lot of battle in the northern part of the map, both in this and the Epic Valandian campaign. The Epic Valandian campaign, of course, will continue. We'll intermix episodes, and we'll try to focus on the weekends for that. I've put a huge amount of time, effort, and resources into that campaign, and I think it's going to be one of the most dramatic campaigns anybody's seen in Bannerlord. We're really crafting and cultivating an amazing storyline with cutscenes, and all kinds of stuff going on. We're putting in Patreon supporters and their characters into the actual game. Okay, we've got peace now with the Valandians. The Battanians just sacked and mangled a bunch of Valandians up north sieging. And so we're down to just the Western Empire. Now, we can't quite tackle this kind of force, 683 troops, and it's a solid mixed army. But we might be able to take out the caboose of this train. I think we can handle this. This is 220-ish. See if they attack. Now, this is interesting. This is Skolderbroda, and the trend continues. And I like this trend, this change. I'm going to mention the good with the bad, right? We'll say negative things when we see it. We're going to try to call it like we see it. But this is a positive change. Now he's running. Okay, they engaged. The minor clans now carry a lot more troops that are culturally appropriate. So this is Skolderbroda, right? The Skolderbroda. These guys here have a lot of Skolderbrodas. In previous versions of Bannerlord, you would run into these armies and guys would complain about it because there'd be 4 Skolderbrodas and 122 Imperial units. Not very culturally, not very unique, right? So we're going to try to use these rocks here, try to get to the other side. We're in a little bit of an awkward shape here. But let me finish that point. I think it's a lot more interesting when your minor clans have primarily minor clan units in their army because they're so unique, right? These Skolderbrota, we're going to try to recruit some as well when we win this victory. We're going to win this fucking victory here. This keeps happening. The 5th Division keeps ending up being a mix. That is because we have an infantry, quasi-infantry captain, and the AI does that. If it's one of your non-traditional 4 starting divisions, so in other words, your 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th Division, and say you have an infantry person that's in charge of a division that's assigned to archers, the AI, the system will automatically mix in some infantry because it basically thinks we're stupid. It's trying to micromanage. It's trying to do what the federal government does and say, here, you should be doing this, when they're really meddling with something that I don't want them to. So we end up with infantry in our archers divisions, and that's going to happen as long as I have that gal. I don't really want her part of our army. We may even just tell her to fuck off at some point, but that's what's happening there. If it's happening in your campaign, if you're getting divisions that are mixed, that's probably why. Now, let's see. I've got rocks in between this army and us, but it's a very awkward positioning here. And they have horse archers. I'm a little bit indecisive about what to do here. And of course, that's the enemy. When I feel indecisive as a commander, that's a red flag. You want to have a plan early on, and if you don't, you know, you really got to improvise and think on the fly. So I think we're going to try to pull the enemy around the southern end of these rocks. In other words, this right side here. But it does look like a lot of their troops are coming around to this top area, which is suboptimal. And worse than that, they have horse archers that are sort of peppering us. And those are very dangerous to our units, right? We have a lot of units that are lower level. Horse archers will 1 or 2 shot lower level archers. It's the only way the enemy can really get to our archers right now is with horse archers. So let's try pulling down here. Oh shit. Let's see. I'm very indecisive. Their cavalry's charging. Let's pull back. God, our units are really spread out here. I'm kind of botching this battle. Let's see if we can recover. Let's get our archers pulled up to here. Our skirmishers are halfway down the hill. We've got to get these horse archers off our flank here. I've got to get some skirmishers and archers set up to get these guys out of here. I'm a little frustrated right now with myself. Sometimes you narrate yourself into a pickle. And we got to get these archers spread out here quickly. And the enemy's doing about the best thing they could do here, and that is charge quickly. It's almost like they recognize we're making a mistake. That's not really what's happening. What's happening, of course, is the AI is... they are just diarrheaing onto the battlefield here and charging. F1, F3. Try to get these archers spread out. Where's my skirmishers? The 6th Division. Get up here. That's the 1st. Shit, I think I might have cut off the 6th Division. I got the stupid horse archer lady following me. Fuck off. Get out of here. You're frustrating me. They are cut off. Damn it. Okay. We might be in trouble here. I've put us into a bad spot. We've got to use tactics to recover here. So let's start spreading out our archers. We got to get them to different locations. The 6th we can square and just push away. Otherwise, they're going to get completely massacred. Back up, boys. That 1st is there. 4th and 5th. At least we have 2 strong archer divisions, and there's plenty of fiend champs in there, right? That's going to, between that and some tactics, that's going to allow us to recover often from mistakes. In fact, I said it earlier this episode, this is an accident, but it'll serve as a good demonstration. Can we recover from bad positioning and, frankly, mistakes as a commander, right? I don't mind mentioning when I make mistakes, just like the whole 1.3 snafu releasing it early. Sometimes you gotta eat a little humble pie and admit when you made a mistake and move on, right? Try to learn from your mistakes. We're gonna do that here. Now, these archers and skirmishers are being run down, but most of them should be able to get away and start kiting behind the enemy here. The enemy archers are coming up, so we want to position that infantry and archer division away from both of those, right? You sort of take the infantry, the enemy infantry and archer position and triangulate the opposite of their 2 points, kind of like you would do with a compass. Of course, half you young guys probably never used that shit. Now, their infantry's definitely doing a number on our infantry, but we still have 2 archer divisions that are separated by a good distance, and they're good archers. I think we can still pull out a victory here. These archers are behind. I can smoke these guys. Man, it's close, though. Guys are holding up their shields, of course. Now, they're going to be weakened and running into this Fiend Champ division. Let's get these guys triangulated out of here. These little weak archers. I'm going to smash a few of these guys on the head here. And I think we're still okay. But it is a good example of how you can mess up with tactics. And if you have good tactics, you can just dust yourself off, come right back, and win the battle still. We got this shit here. These guys can charge. I'm going to help them finish off these last half dozen Legionnaire. Eat it. Get off our troops. We're gaining levels here. We're gaining experience, right? Failure is experience. When you're younger, it's a really hard thing. Failure is an opportunity to improve yourself. When we're young, we don't have a lot of experience failing and then coming back from that. We call that adversity, us old guys. And the reality is that I'm not saying you should welcome failure, but when you have failure in life, it is your opportunity to learn, to dust yourself off, and to go through the mental, 20 wildlings we lost. To go through the mental anguish of losing 20 wildlings. And you know what you do? You dust yourself off, you go get some more troops to recruit wildlings, and positive things will happen like this. This guy had a bunch more prisoners. Now we're adding sharpshooters to our army, and we're going to be able to get those wildlings back. I've mentioned it already, I think, in this episode. The Battanians are some of the fastest units to upgrade in the whole game. Why? Because it's easy to kill and keep them alive at range. Your infantry are the hardest to upgrade, right? Because they have to kill. That means they generally have to be up close and killing unless they're wildlings, right? Your Battanian wildling can spend his whole career, literally his whole life in your army without being hit by a melee weapon, other than maybe a spear or something. He's not gonna, you can kite, you can kill box, you can do all kinds of deadly things with your ranged units that you can't do with your infantry, and it makes it hyper easy to rebuild a ranged army. All right, we're chasing this army, but obviously not to attack. I'm heading this direction because I call this Fian Alley. There's 4 different towns that are right up and down here that all have the little highborn youths. Remtoil, Clegg Bland, or whatever the hell you call that. And we're just going to run right next to this army here and recruit like crazy because their commander shit the bed last battle, and we had 30 casualties. But I mean that, right? And we are going to try to include some positive philosophy in these episodes. You young guys that fail, whether you have a girlfriend, you break up with her or something like that, you get fired, you fail a college course, use those opportunities to come out a better person. That's the best way to approach it. Now, these events, it's another thing. It's like there's like a boar in the woods here. I got to be honest, and I've got more advice, I think, for Tail Worlds here. We're just going to riff on some of this stuff because I'm free to do so, right? You guys, oh shit, this guy's gonna beat us to the bridge. I want to get across that bridge. We'll just let him go first. So he's heading up to siege. That's good because we're probably going to be able to get a battle up there. So Tail Worlds with these events, it's a great new concept. Basically, it's a chance for us to interact more with the game, right? To tell our army, nah, you can't rest, or no, you can't pillage, this village or something like that. And you suffer certain consequences from your action, just like life. But to me, they're very unsubstantial, the effects. You get 3 morale, and maybe you get a little bit of coin, or one guy dies. And I'm coming up with my ideas right now of what they can use these events for. Of course, this is beta still. This isn't even the final version. This is a template for how to use it. And I've got a great idea already, or at least in my confirmation biased brain, it seems like a great idea. And here's the thought. In combat, and in fact, I think we'll simulate it here in a future battle, maybe even at Remtoil Castle, when you have friendly fire, the enemy at the end of the battle, especially if you have friendly fire kills, the enemy commander, or the allied commander rather, one of these Battanian lords should come over. There should be a big picture of an angry, think of one of the big gruff Battanian lords, and he should be like, our scouts noted that you killed 4 of our troops that battle. We are furious. The captains are furious, and their families are demanding a weregild, which is basically an ancient it's kind of like a legal payment almost. It's how you would pay off damages. They're requesting a weregild of 50,000 dinars, and this is where the choose your own adventure part would come in, or we're going to expel you from the army, declare war on you, and you're no longer a mercenary for the Battanians. That would be great, where you have to choose between major consequences. And of course, you could have positive events as well. You could have a situation where you save Dirt in a battle, and he says, "Would you like? I would like to award you a castle, for saving me in that battle, or would you like 30 banner knights and 10 sharpshooters and an improvement, you know, in relations or something like that. Those would be a lot more interesting to me, where your actions in game generate a real tangible effect. Now we got that clown companion. I'm just kind of trying to put some reasonable armor on him. You know, we were having some fun with how bad he looked, but we're getting to the stage of this campaign where I want to start tackling big targets, and we have to be a little bit more serious with some of these companions. Get a little autosave here, and let's see what's going on here. We might be able to sneak in, but there's also an army looming outside this castle that's under defense. There's a pretty good chance we're going to have a battle here. 5694. Yeah, they're already coming in hot, so we're going to be able to participate in a nice little battle here. We got 150 troops because we picked up some before the deserter check came in. It's the power bar is close, but we outnumber the enemy heavily here, and it's a great opportunity. Again, I hate to keep harping on it, but the advantages of a ranged army here. If you have a bunch of infantry in this battle, you probably get slaughtered because you got to be on the lines against hundreds of enemy infantry. With ranged units, we can just sit back. There's no friendly fire penalty, and we can just rain in damage from a distance while our ally gets pummeled, and we just collect all the glory. It really is a lopsided system. And I guess what I'm trying to say in sum about ranged units is they shouldn't be better at all situations, right? There's very few situations where I would rather have 90% infantry than 90% archers, right? Very few. And of course, I think the right balance is about 50-60% ranged units, archers specifically. I mean, 20% skirmishers, maybe 30% at most, and then 10 or 20% total regular infantry and cavalry. That's it. So I think 70% ranged units, maybe even 80 in your army, is the best army in Bannerlord. And I think that sort of illustrates the problem. So the Battanians here are just straight out zerging. There's no strategy. It's just F1, F3, and we want some kills. So I'm just going to have our infantry charge here. Archers can stay at range and work in safety. But we have all these other Battanians. They're basically racing in as fast as they can to get some kills. So we want to participate. This is going to be a nothing burger battle. You can see from the power bar that we're already eating this Western Empire force for lunch. Again, more stunning visuals, right? Every single battle, it seems like the visuals are stunning. And be able to shoot some guys in the back here. Now, here's a perfect example. You think I'm concerned about shooting in here? I can't really see who's who. I don't care about friendly fire. I'll smoke our guys. Why? There's no penalty. Right? I can just sit here. Look at this stupid horse archer lady. Get out of here. Kill that guy. Yeah, I didn't mean kill her, but thanks for distracting him. Now, right here, it doesn't matter. I can just fire into this packed rank of troops. And if you kill troops, there's no penalty. Like I said later on, it should be like, you know, Carfid looking all angry. They have all the systems in place basically to make this a thing. All they have to do is just implement the code. I think it won't be too hard, right? You just have some checks where it says you killed 3 friendlies. It says right there in purple writing, friendly fire, right? So the system's clearly tracking it. And then at the end of the battle, it says something like, Caladog is giving you your last warning. Any more friendly fires will result in being expelled from the Battanians, or something to that effect, right? You're gonna have to pay a ransom of 50 grand to the families of the guys you killed, something like that. I'd like to see, in other words, the events are a great part of Bannerlord, but they're not substantive enough to the game, right? And that's something that obviously Tale Worlds can fix. Hopefully they don't leave it to modders, right? All right, so I actually kind of botched here too. I was a little worried that there was so many Western Empire infantry here, and they have Skolderbroder, which are nasty infantry. Our forces got waxed. So I've got our infantry in a line there fighting. That's suboptimal because they're going to take heavy losses. I got a little lackadaisical here. We're 100% going to win the battle, but obviously we want to minimize casualties, and we're going to have quite a few here again. All these Skolderbroder, we're going to take some prisoners because it's probably my second or third favorite minor clan after the Lake Rats, and maybe the Beni Zilal is my second favorite. All those javelins, again, we've talked about it. Javelins are lethal. If you know how to use them, they're utterly ridiculously lethal, and we will definitely be showing that in this campaign. So 33 more losses. Fortunately, a lot of them were those volunteers we just picked up at a village. They insta-died in this battle. We lost 4 wildlings, but that's all right. You know, again, these are small losses. We're not losing companions. We're not losing 3/4 of our army. We'll continue to recruit guys. and continue to move on up. Right now, I'm going to try to release a lot of lake rat wreckers and a lot of Skolderbroda. That's one of the ways you can increase your relation with them so that they will join you later when you're a kingdom. Right? I take the other lords prisoner and then let these minor clans go. Pick up some more crossbow here. Let's see, what else can I talk about? So on our way to our next piece of action here, or event, let's talk about army makeup. Right, this is a very popular subject, and it's definitively up to subjective reasoning. It depends on how you play. For how I play, for our style of play here, we're going to be able to make it there, I think. And we win, right? That's like the summary of the next half hour here. I'm going to be able to talk about it on the way down to Veron Castle. And of course, subscribers and frequent visitors of the channel, let's pick this guy up here. They know that, they know exactly what we're about to do here. We're heading down to Veron Castle that's under siege by a large force. We win, right? Veron Castle is basically a cheat code. And if you've never seen it before, stick around, right? You're going to see basically an unbeatable way to defend Veron Castle. We'll talk about that more in a second, but let's do real quick. Let me talk about what I would do with my army composition here if I had basically, you know, over the course of the next 2, 3, 4 episodes, what we will build. I would say out of 150 to 100, we'll just say 200 troops. Nice round numbers. I would prefer 70 Fiend champs, something like that. Some guys are like, 180 Fiend champs. Yeah, maybe, but you would suffer in siege defense. You'd have a real infantry problem guarding, blockading walls. So I'll go ahead and say 200 units. We'll say 100 Fiend champs. How's that? Does it satisfy you, Fiend champ lovers? 100 Fiend champs, which is ridiculously powerful on its own. Then I'd say 35 or 40 wildlings, give or take. 35 or 40 sergeant crossbow and or sharpshooters. I think those units are virtually identical. The sharpshooter is probably a little bit better at range, and the sergeant crossbow is a little bit better at melee. And then the last 20 troops would be basically tough infantrymen, legionary, Aserai vanguard Ferris types, although that's a cavalryman. I think you get the idea. Basically tough infantrymen that have a shield, so sturgeon veteran spearmen and stuff like that. I think maybe 10 cavalry at most, and that army would just mass execute large forces. It would shred it and keep defense, etc. Now we have a weakish army here, right? We're overstocked for units because we're going to sneak in. When you sneak into a castle or city, you lose like 10-20% of your units. And this is another point here. I'm gonna do that later. I can't decide right now. I think this is another thing for Tail Worlds. I think they should adjust how many troops you're able to sneak into a castle or city, because it's not realistic, right? The enemy sometimes, when they're, most of the time in real life, when they were sieging a city, sieging a castle, they would have scouts and patrols and all kinds of troops circling it to make sure that you couldn't get a whole bunch of troops inside, right? By being able to sneak in 70-80% of our troops here, this castle siege is over, right? It's just that easy. Now, they did nerf the auto-resolve for defense, so that's going to mean more guys have to defend by hand, or you'll have a lower success rate using the auto-resolve. I've still got to test that. We've got to see how much they nerfed it, right? Maybe it's dramatic, maybe it's just a little. But we're going to show you how to defend this castle no matter what. Now, 80% of the guys that frequent our channel aren't even watching right now, right? They already know what we're going to do. This castle siege is over. I will bet you 1 million dinars that the enemy cannot win here. This is Veron Castle. There's about 6 castles in the game that are all Imperial that have this castle layout. This sloping courtyard that goes up, ramps up to a citadel at the back. This is an untakeable castle. Doesn't matter if Sun Tzu or Frederick the Great was outside. If they have to make this frontal assault here, in other words, these 3 different access points, they can't win. There's just no access. So I'll talk about what we're doing here. But this is the main reason, right? We have these upsloping hills, which allows your archers to shoot over your infantry at the gate. We're going to square infantry there. I'm going to put an infantry division over here, but kind of back a little bit on this wall. That way, they're not shot by troops outside. If you put them on the front walls, like all those dipshits that are out there right now, those guys are all going to get shot. You can see them getting smoked on the walls already. Those guys are just, they're fodder, and that's the AI doing that. Those are not our troops. We'll watch those guys get killed, and we're going to look for targets of opportunity with our fire catapult. Now the siege tower is coming up. We're going to try to destroy a siege tower as these troops next to us to get shot. And I'm going to try to kill, there's a guy on a ballista there. I'm going to try to kill that guy because he will do a lot of damage to your troops. Now, what are these guys? These archers here. Who is this? Are these Argos? Okay, let's back them up. Don't forget, though, when you tell units to retreat like this, tell them to stop at some point or manually position them, because units that are told to retreat in a castle siege, they will retreat. They will go all the way to the citadel and start eating all the food and drinking all your wine. You have to micromanage these guys. Otherwise, the retreat command, they retreat off the battlefield. And obviously, that's not what we want to have happen right now. Now, I'm waiting with the siege tower to destroy the siege tower coming up for two reasons here. The first is that I'm going to be able to easily destroy it when it's up close. Can't miss, right? It's right there. Second, I want all those troops that are at the base of it, that are supposedly going up it if it arrives, which it's not going to. But if it arrived, right, they would try to climb it. We want them right there so that we can immolate them and give them third-degree burns with our Greek fire here. We're going to be able to gain a shit ton of experience in this battle. And frankly, that's why it's a cheat code. It's not just a cheat code because we're going to win this siege. We're going to gain everything in this siege from a Bannerlord perspective. Let's try to cover it. Our companions are going to gain levels because they're shooting and getting kills. Our main character is going to gain tons of skills, right? This is throwing skill. That right there, in fact, you see I gained a level. We're going to gain throwing skill. We're going to gain heaps of athleticism. I gained a level there in consecutive throws, right? This is just insane EXP as he yells, "You bastard!" That's a new little change, little subtle thing. So we're going to continue to throw these from up here. And it needs to be adjusted, because one of the things that this levels in an exemplary manner here is athleticism, right? It improves your athleticism on a level of basically killing these troops. The system, I think, is calculating you killing these troops by hand. So it's as if we killed 150 or 200 troops by hand in this battle. I gained another level, right? So it really is, it's something they need to adjust. Or not, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But it is a way to ultra power level your character. I think we came into this episode level 20 or 19 or something like that. We'll probably gain 5-6 levels by the time it's all said and done. Now, we have some help here at this city, or at this castle, but it doesn't matter. If we had no help at all from the, in other words, from the AI, if it was just our 100 troops, we could probably still defend. That's how powerful it is. Of course, we have even more rocks here to level up our throwing. We can yell bastard at these guys some more. Surely some of those guys' parents were married, right? These are not all bastards. Attempt at humor. So, again, you see me gaining another level here, right? As we kill these bastards. And not only, of course, is this good for the castle siege, but I bet we gain 80 to 100 points of athleticism from this battle. Now, this guy's building his throwing skill as well. And you guys are probably like, I thought you were making a Battanian, a bow guy. I am. But there may be times where this guy's in charge of a division with a mix of skirmishers and bows. There is a purpose for that. There is a reason for that. I'll talk about that when we get to it. So I do want him to have 150 to 200 throwing. That gives that division all the advantages of the archers. Then you get all the advantages of combat and endurance and all the other things from your character to all the units within that division. So if it's maybe it's 100 total units of archers, 20 skirmishers, 30 skirmishers, then those units all benefit from that. And of course, if you have a nice banner, add that on top as well. If we can get a 30% movement banner for that division, we win, right? We're just going to maul everything in sight. Now, I'm a little concerned because I don't have very much infantry, and the infantry we have is a bunch of guys wearing plaid and a shakily holding their hammer. So we're going to steal some divisions here to use as infantry. And I mentioned this before, this is why you don't want all Fiend champs. When you make a square in castle defense, you want to have at least, I would say 50 total shield units. Probably 80 or 90 would be better, because you're usually going to make at least 2, if not 3 or 4 different squares to bottleneck the enemy. Now, some guys will just destroy the siege weapons as the enemy gets up close. They're like, that's the fastest way to do it. That's true. It's also much less experience. This way we can kill many hundreds of Western Empire fucks. We're going to gain a massive amount of influence. And I was covering this earlier and interrupted myself. We're going to gain experience. We're going to gain influence. We're going to gain morale. We're going to gain equipment. We're getting companions that are leveling up. Our main character is going to level up. We're going to gain tons of gold from plundering. There's just nothing we don't gain in this battle. It's basically a home run. Now, oh shit, we just had a huge surge of militia come in. So that's fine. We'll back up our units and let the militia guard the gate. In fact, there's a bunch of shoeless militia charging up against these legionnaire. Let's get some more friendly fire here. It doesn't really matter, right? There's no consequences to it. We can just shoot this guy right in the back. They're up there. You're getting mauled by legionary. I'll tear your limb. That's right. Those guys are up there thrashing them. And it just makes this keep siege even easier. So how many troops for Veron Castle? How many of your own? If it was only our own, say we're our own kingdom. I think with 50 militia, or maybe 100 militia is probably more realistic. Let's say you had 100 militia here. I think 150 of your own troops, so 250 total, you can defend against 3,000. You can get a 10, 12, 15 to 1 kill ratio. I just think this is an impossible situation. Like I said, if Sun Tzu was outside, he could not break this configuration. There isn't any real strategy that the enemy could pursue other than trying to shove a square through the gate, trying to make a breach, basically. And what we would do with that is jam the gate with the square and then kill everybody in the courtyard. As soon as it happened, we would jam a hole in that gate down there and then charge with everybody else in the courtyard. Isolate the enemy and just smoke them all, right? Smoke some of these militia. And I can just fire recklessly here because I don't care if I hit our troops, right? And once in a while you're going to smoke some hillmen in the face, headshot. And this, oh shit, okay, so they are trying to rally. So what do you do here? Aggressively attack these guys, right? As they're trying to rally to a new position, it's clobber time, right? It's smash them with your hammer. If we need to, I'll get another division over here and charge. But there's enough allied troops here as I pound these troops with my hammer that we don't need to. The enemy's really being laid on their back in this battle, as predicted. Right, and I bet we lose less than 20 troops in this battle, right? So this is one of those battles where not only are we going to win, in fact, I think we might have just won. They roared and cheered and shit, but we're going to gain just an insane amount of benefits. Yeah, that's over. The enemy is fleeing. You have won the battle, and this battle is over. Let's scorch a militia guy in the neck right here and celebrate our victory with some war crimes. Trying to get outside so I can hammer down some of the enemy, but you know what? It just doesn't matter. Victory is ours. Ha ha. We lost 2 troops and we killed 600. It is a cheat code. Now again, there's nothing that the AI can really do about it. And I probably won't do this a second time in this campaign, especially on camera. I'm not going to waste your guys' time. And look at the endurance at the bottom there. That's stupid. That's an exploit, whatever you want to call it. We gained 160 points of endurance and 126 in throwing in one battle. That's just as, well, use it if you'd like to. I definitely think it's a legit tactic, right? There's nothing exploitative about that. We're just using the system that's in play and mangling the enemy. And like I said, it would work against a human player too. I get a big old smile in my campaigns when I see the enemy sieging a city with a huge force, and it's a city or a castle where I know we can defend. No different here, right? We're just loading up on elite prisoners. We need to get more troops, 118, right? But we're still filling out the edges of what is going to be a juggernaut army here. And this whole time, of course, I've just been trying to make my way south. That might be next episode here. This episode is, it's pushing 45 minutes. Try to keep these in manageable bite-sized chunks. And of course, the main purpose of this side series, this campaign, is to show you guys version 1.3, right? Some of the differences, right? Calling in Empire to War is a new one, and it's one that I think is great, right? Let's talk more about that. You've got what is now a 2-to-1. Is the Western Empire going to go seek some help? Evidently, they're getting captured by mountain bandits. Gyarios got captured like a bitch. You would like to see the AI seek help here, recognize its situation, just like Frederick the Great, when all the kingdoms of Europe were basically seemingly conspiring against him, and Maria Theresa basically engaged all her allies to cut him off of all his resources. You would hope that the AI here would seek out friends and basically try to fight back against multiple kingdoms pounding them. But we'll see, right? We'll see. This is very much a test, both by Tailworlds and myself, to see what the gameplay is like. And they're saying pretty publicly, right, that they want to see what people think, what changes may need to be made, what bugs may need to be made. They're encouraging all of us content creators to basically send in bug reports, send in stack dumps when the game crashes and stuff like that. So we'll continue to do so. And the salty 5% of the population is like, well, that's bullshit. They're having us test their game for free. Isn't that their job? And my answer is very simple. Are you having fun? Well, then what are you complaining about then, right? Like, yeah, okay, there's a crash, there's a bug or something like that, but this is great fun. And they keep on providing it. Tailworlds could just go away, right? They could all just probably do something else and leave Bannerlord like it is. Instead, it's pretty clear that they're dedicated to it. They recognize what a great game this could be, and so they're building onto it, and I applaud that. All right, so I don't know. We've got this giant asteroid force here, and I kind of feel like we should join the Western Empire, right? And maybe we'd help them. And I may do that, right? If it starts to get really lopsided here, I'm in the interest of having some interesting shit happen, right? You guys don't want to see us just steamroll everything, but at some point we are going to build an unbelievably powerful army, partly, and it'll be 80% Battanians, partly just to show people that the Battanians probably do have the best troop line, the wildlings, their infantry. We'll talk more about their infantry and how to use them. Their cavalry, how I think you should use Battanian cavalry. I have a very distinct strategy in mind, and I think we're going to be able to do some wonderful killing, right? If those words can be attached to each other, I think the Battanians are just insanely powerful. Now we could fight this force here. It's pathetic. 255 troops, and this is of course why we play with mods on our channel. It's 80% recruits and infantry, low-level infantry and Vigla recruits and stuff like that. It's like they went over, to the farms and said, anybody got a pitchfork? Ah, okay, here, hold this. You're now an infantryman. And unfortunately, this happens a lot in the early game. We can sign their own villages up here to slaughter their own troops. And Misgathers is haunted by spirits. Okay, the horses are... Okay, we've got another one of these little events. And I'm going to answer this. You guys feel free to read it, and I'll probably click the little boxes here for you to read. But it's another event where look at the consequences. This is just not... I don't really care that much, right? Start making the traits more impactful on the game. One of the ideas, like I've said, that I've had is to have minor clans where they only join people who are impulsive and fearless, or they only join evil characters, right? In other words, if there was a lot more to the game based on this attribute system, right? Maybe there's a minor clan that's full of very tough, disciplined knights, and they only join you if you're daring and high valor or something like that. Then it would be really interesting to make those decisions that impact the game. I'm thinking of kind of like a Kingdom Come Deliverance, where there's all kinds of relations and guys remember like what you said to them 3 days ago. I think more of those elements can be built in. So what I'm saying here is I like this. Oh, now she's changing her mind. Now she wants to fight. What I'm saying is I like this event system, but they need to, in my opinion, of course, everything in here is my opinion. None of this is empirical. In my opinion, the events should be less often, maybe half as often or a third as often as they're occurring right now, and much more impactful. Says shit like, your troops want to execute some prisoners, right? Do you let them, or do you chastise your troop? Do you disband those troops that want to execute guys, right? Because these are the kind of difficult decisions that people face, and I think it'd be really interesting for Bannerlord if they had impactful components to your campaign. Now, I'm still struggling with this gal here with the stupid helmet messing up our 5th division. We're going to get rid of her, I think. It's just not working out. The last time I looked at her, she still wasn't using her slings, so we have kind of like this worthless character. And speaking of worthless, this army we're facing is worthless, right? We had a battle, I think it's going to be this episode, it might have been the last one, where it's mostly infantry. They can't win, and it's a real shame. It's a shame they're so low level, but it's also a shame that the enemy has like 9 cavalry. As much as I berate cavalry and belittle cavalry, you have to have them on some level against an intelligent foe. Otherwise, you'll get kited into the sun, into the Stone Age. We've got a really weak first division. I'm going to back them up for protection. We'll bring them in at the end to score some kitty kills. But this 184 troops is going to walk right into our swan formation here. We have what looks like a cup with a brim to the edges of it, right? These cavalry provide a little defensive buttress against enemy cav charges. There's almost 20 enemy cavalry on the other side. We're going to go look at those guys here, and you could do this too. You can widen your inverted crescent with more divisions. And this center area, again, you can almost draw an X right where I'm riding. This is where the enemy's going to die. This 180 troops, and we already saw it's very mediocre level. I'll be surprised here if we lose 10 troops, right? These forces, they can't win. F1, F3, and maybe it would be close here as this horse archer gets scorched. They have 31 archers, but that's just of no consequence. Maybe if there's 31 fiend champs, right? But you can see from here, they got some mediocre crossbow. What they are is they're future troops for our army, right? After we capture this force. And this must be what that guy, I said there was a guy on Reddit who basically messaged me, and he was kind of pissed off, salty, saying, I'm basically just an arrogant fuck. Well, okay. There's a very fine line in most societies between confident and arrogant. And I'm trying to be humble here and not be an asshole. But again, we're trying to entertain people here. If I'm talking confidently about destroying a weak AI, I don't think this is a giant bragging comment here. I'm not saying Neil deGrasse Tyson couldn't play Bannerlord better than us. You don't ever hear me saying shit like that. On the contrary, I say all the time when guys say they write a comment like greatest of all time with this hyperbole about the skill we show on the channel, my comment is almost always the same. I appreciate that, but there's great Bannerlord players out there. I've seen them. There are almost always somebody who's better than you at almost everything in life, right? So we try to mix in some humility at the same time. When you're just scorching the enemy and blowing everything apart, I think we can make fun of it and say, this enemy is toast. Look at these poor bastards. Their shields are filling full of javelins. They're going to break soon. The wildlings are over there unloading, and the death spam just fizzes. Our cavalry here is the only troops taking some losses, and I'm doing that mostly just to slow this force down. Our little pathetic lord here is just getting shot in the back and stood up, and she got smoked, and the rest of their troops are... Time to form the fishball, right? You guys are anchovies. Make that pretty looking fishball here. Get the skirmishers behind him. And collect all the rewards. On that subject, on the philosophy of being a human being, of skills and humility and stuff like that. One of the most important skills as a human being is a skill called introspection. If you've never heard of that term, basically it means trying in an unbiased manner, which is always difficult, trying to be as unbiased as you can and look at yourself in your events in life, right? That last girlfriend, did she leave because of maybe you guys had a conflict, or did she leave because you made mistakes, or she made mistakes, or because you cheated on her, or came home drunk to her wedding, or not the wedding, I guess that'd be really bad. Did you do something basically? And you do the same thing for battles. You do the same thing, hopefully, at your job. You do the same thing with your relationship with your friends, right? Was I an asshole to that guy on Reddit when he was trashing me? No. I was very polite, even though he was either trying to get a rise out of me or just venting on me. I was super polite. Tried to kill the guy with kindness. And introspection is really important because it teaches you what you're not good at. I'm a firefighter by trade, and I'm not going to get deep into it, but I tell the guys at work that come and seek me for help with stuff, the new guys, right? We get guys that are 22 that start a profession with us, and they're like, hey, can you help me with this? And, I'll give a good class on rescue tech skills or something like that. And they'll ask me a question or something I don't know very much about, and I tell those guys, no, here are the experts here in our department and that subject matter. Seek out these guys. And I usually attach, I'm not good at that. And, the key to that is it's important in life to know what you're good at, but also what you're not good at, right? And either try to get better at it or at least acknowledge that. That is introspection. It's a very powerful skill, and it's one that a lot of people in society don't possess. You need to be able to step out of your body and basically try to come up with a self-review, right? We're not always going to get everything right. And look at this, right? This is, well, we win, right? I'm scratching my head here because part of me is awkward about it. We just maxed out our endurance in that siege, and we get all these skill perks. I guess we'll cover them here. Guys want to see skill perks once in a while? This is going to be the end of the episode here. I'm looking down. We're about an hour. I'll show you kind of the perks that I prefer. And you guys can always ask questions. I'm not going to spend 2 minutes talking about each of these, but these are automatic, and this is why you want to level your athleticism. These 2 perk points, and I'm going to take control here because this guy is going to be a bowman. You get 2 freak perk points out of this line. This and the smithing skill, which incidentally comes from endurance, both of those are ultra powerful. You could easily argue they could be nerfed, right? That the fact that you effectively get 4 attribute points, right? Your attributes on the right of that panel, you get 4 of those. Look at that, we gained 8 skill points. So maybe we did gain 7 levels in that one siege. I kind of forgot about it here. Just gained tons of, and again, this is vanilla. There's no mods here for anybody suggesting we're doing something nefarious. It is. It's like a cheat code. It's a working cheat code in Bannerlord, and that is siege defense. So you get all this throwing skill because we threw those fireballs. Didn't you see how skilled I was? We'll be arrogant here. Here's arrogance. I threw those fireballs like a total badass, dude. I'm a Chad. You bitches can't throw fireballs like me, right? And of course you can. You can do exactly what we just did there. So yeah, your endurance skill, your athletic skill, those are things I think most players should be pumping up early on. I cringe when people send in their campaigns for us to work in the Disaster of War series and they have 2 points of endurance and they have 60 riding and 60 athleticism, because you're giving up a lot by not pushing those skills. All right, let's wrap this episode up. We're doing a few more perk points here. It doesn't matter too much. We'll talk, if you guys want me to, more about my philosophy when it comes to speccing out characters. But I don't want to spend a huge amount of time at the end of this episode doing so today. So this campaign is going to be fun. It's going to be short. Don't expect 50 episodes. Hopefully short and sweet. Smash our way to victory here. Become a king. We're not going to conquer the whole map. I promise you that. But we're going to have fun with this ultra powerful Battanian army. So of course, if you want to see more from our series, now's your time to subscribe. Hit that notify button. That way you know when new episodes come out. If you don't mind and you didn't dislike it, please hit that like button on the way out. And with all that said, friends, I will see you fellas next time.